All right, we got a little bit of a different setup today. We're going to try. We've got some very fine Flintridge flakes. I hope you can see because I can't. The sun is shining on the screen, so it's going to be all pressure. Look at this. Polka dot Flintridge. This goes back to when I first started flint knapping. I would go over to Nethers and I would get some flint and I would get some flakes like this. And as long as I could get a legal, which in my state is 3/4 inches wide, 2 sharp edges point out of the stuff. There's my cat. Or my daughter's cat or my son's. I don't know anymore. But as long as I could get a legal, 3/4 inch wide point sharp out of it, it was, good for hunting. And I'm gonna go with this flake. This will be, a quick hunting flakes. This is not gonna be like a show. How you make all them fancy points. This is, you make this, you go Bobo. And you go hunting. You don't want to spend an hour making a point to shoot at a squirrel and have it hit a rock or a tree and break. And I just start, I'll take this, this is the bulb end. I think the cat finally went away. I got to put my glasses on. I didn't have to do that before. Put my glasses on so I can see the weather. Bobo. Now you see, I got this soaked in water, and it makes it way better. Like when I noticed this, and I finally read about it somewhere. I'm not going to say I invented this, but for me, when I started knapping, there wasn't all this. It was an article in Traditional Archer magazine that kind of talked about it. I had already been building bows for years, so I thought I'd give it a try. And I never knew about Flintridge. I just got some window panes, and I started, from what was said, and there was no internet stuff, and and even if there was back then, I couldn't afford the internet, and I couldn't afford, I couldn't afford a lot of things back then. But I hope this is in. I can't see because of the sun. Oh yeah, that looks like it's a good spot, and it doesn't look like it's going to be upside down. So hopefully I don't have to flip the video when I edit it. But you can see this is pressure flaking pretty good, and every once in a while I give it a little drink to keep it hydrated. And it's a thin flake I start with. I didn't take the video of making this thin flake, but it's not really that hard to do. Get rid of this bulb. Later on tonight, once the sun goes a little bit, I gotta finish tilling the garden and plant some stuff. But I'm gonna make a new controller for my turkey roaster so that I can adjust the power because the reason I don't use the turkey roaster is it takes 2,000 watts. They take a lot of power, and the line running out to my shed is only a number 12, and it's 100 feet long. Realistically, it's enough for lights and stuff, but not enough for constant load like that. Now the slow cooker I use only takes 300 watts, which is basically 3 light bulbs, and that's why I use it. But the thing with it is, it only holds about 8 pounds. And if you see my other video from yesterday when I went to Flintridge, there was some people over there and stuff, and I got a lot more than that little cooker. I'll be cooking that stuff till December, because it takes a long time to cook Flintridge. To cook it properly. I mean, you can rough it up, speed cook it, but you got to go. I don't know if I could show you on this piece. On this piece, you can see there's some healed seams, and in the raw flint, look at that. That's got dendrites in it. But if you cook it real slow to where everything expands and everything cools, them seams won't make a difference. If you want to make hunting points, you need to learn to work it raw. I usually try to make all my hunting points from raw, because I like to get more than one shot. You don't always get that though. But anyways, what I was saying, I'm making a new Arduino controller. I'm going to show you the programming, the controller, the little bit called a SSR, solid state relay, that the controller controls. And not teaching you, but if you put a little bit of effort into it, most people can figure it out. I mean, I'm not Einstein, and I figured it out. And the main thing to do is be careful with the electricity. The Arduino, or Arduino as they call it, is low voltage. Runs off of I use a cell battery charger to run it, because it takes a long time. I got a 1,000 milliwatt amp hour that I run mine with, because I don't want it to lose track. If the power blinks, the program starts over, and where I live, the power blinks every 15 minutes. And what I'm doing, see, there's a square edge on there. I'm working around. I'm going slow because I'm not in a hurry, and I don't want this flake to, break while I'm filming, because then I look like a fool. But not that that matters much. I wish the sun, I want to make sure. I'll be so sad if I make this whole thing and then, not trying to run thinning flakes. I'm trying to even it out, get rid of that bulb, get rid of this, and I might keep this one. I like them polka dots. And making a little thing like this, if you're just starting, everything you have to do to work this is the same as one of them big, but you just need a little piece of flint, and it teaches you, starting out with little stuff, teaches you to be in control. You know, the delicacies that are sometimes required. And yeah, you get to practice the techniques. Heck, if you get 1 pound of Flintridge flakes like this, you've got days of practice. Versus if you get a couple big spalls and you try to make your first imitation of a Hopewell dovetail or something, you break it in half, you smash it to pieces, and you know, you don't really learn anything other than, yeah, you can break rocks. And you know, there's Flintridge out there that's really big pieces and good, but I've been going to Nethers for 20 years, and I have rarely seen pieces bigger than this that were good come out. This big, not this big. It's all freeze cracked, it's all from the ground moving. A lot of it's healed, and you know, if you have a slab saw, you can slab it, get decent slabs. But you go to knap it, and if you don't have that right touch, them healed seams will crack open on you. And I avoid that. I use my controller that I'm going to build another one of to raise my temperature, to run my cooker. I run my cooker. It runs automatic. It ramps up. Say the temperature starts out. It reads the first temperature that's in there. You put the rocks in. It's 75 degrees outside, so it's 75. It takes that temperature and it turns on the heat. It adds 10 degrees to that temperature. So it takes current temperature plus 10. That's the set temperature. And then it will read, as it climbs, turns on the heat, slowly it'll climb 3 degrees. Say it climbs, there's not that much flint in there, and it climbs 3 degrees in a minute. It will dial the power back so that 10 degrees ramps up in about 20 minutes. That's generally what I do. And then it will hold that for, you see I bridged that and I broke it. But that's okay, because I was trying to get rid of that stuff anyways. And this is a little bit narrow, but we'll keep going. Now, what did I learn? Don't bridge it. I should have been on this pad, and I should have only been using one finger, but I'm talking too much. I know. Somebody tells me I always talk too much. But it's just a thing. Now this would definitely be a squirrel point. And see, it's coming along there. But you see how I'm doing this now? That's what I should have been doing. One finger, one side. And I wouldn't have broke that. Now you can imagine that this is kind of like your edge on your points, you guys, when you're learning. If your edge is this thin, you're not going to run a big flake like that to thin your piece. So that's a thing to think about. Your edge has to be thick enough for the flake that you want to run. Now a lot of guys will just do, which is what I should have done. If you would just, you could use a scruncher like that, scrunch it down. You can take a coarse abrader. You can use a pad that's not so worn, so it's not as humped up. Don't use the notcher. You could get step fractures because your pad's not worn. See, I got this wee little notch. That's how that one started. And I wore it out. See, no more. Took that pad out, no more step fractures. Fingers in the back. This finger's holding. This finger's just stopping it from pushing back. Okay. I'm going to take a second, check the film, make sure that everything was actually in view. All right, I watched the video. Everything was in view. So we shall continue. I lost my little flake. There it is. I soaked it in water while I was doing that. And I need to sharpen up my flaker a little. I used to use copper, but I mostly use steel for everything now. It's easier to get the, smaller or the bigger pieces. Now you can see I flaked on this side, so my edge moved over. I didn't abrade because, this stuff is tough enough. It doesn't need any real help. A little bit of that. And we'll just start in between the valleys. See, there's little valleys where I flaked on this side. It makes snaggletooths. Took me a minute to figure that out. That's how them guys are doing them serrations. You pressure flake on one side, then you come to the other side, and you pop a little. You just pop a little back so you get a flat spot. Put your flaker on there. See, that'll give you that little sharp tooth. Yeah. You won't believe how sharp this little jaggedy stuff is. Then we got our microfine abrader. Give it a little. Now the reason I use that, I don't want that thing to make flakes. I just want it to roughen up the edge a little. Sunlight's kind of messing with me right now. Okay, I'm going to do less talking, and because I basically explained everything, and then start doing more pointing. These are straight down flakes. Might be hard to see because of my big thumb. I got to get this this side a little broad over. Take our gold abrader. Yep, 24 karat gold. Somebody ever finds that point and examines it, they won't be able to say, oh, this is a ancient, you know. This is 10,000 years from now. They'd be like, oh, this is a ancient Jimmy's Creekside point. Made specifically for squirrels and or groundhogs. I could tell it was getting dry because it was getting tough to flake. I don't know what difference that water makes. Unless it lets the shock wave propagate better. See, we're centered there. We got that. We just got to do some final shaping. But anyways, the flint cooker. It's a wonderful thing because you can program it. If you do different materials, you could have program A, program B, program C. You know, like I'm going to write one for Georgetown because I've been getting Georgetown from Curtis Smith, and it's really good. And when you cook it, it turns like glass in appearance and nappability. Gets, you know, it's pretty nappable to begin with, but it gets really good when you cook it. And the centers is what I'm cooking, the middle core, because I'll take the flakes off the outside, which seem to be, you know, the best part. And then I've got this big 8 or 9 inch biface core left that is a little tougher, and you can tell that it's tougher. Add some water, let it soak in. Trying to figure out where I'm going to go with this. Not allowed in West Virginia to have barbs. You cannot have less than 90 degrees. I don't know how they get away with it with all them mechanical heads, because when they open, they're just a spike looking thing. But, you know, as they say, that's above my pay grade. So, right there, we basically have it. Squirrel, groundhog, rabbit, frog, fish in the creek. I shoot fish in my creek. You know, the suckers run up, which they'll be coming pretty soon, and I'll shoot a few of them. I mix them in with grass cuttings and make fertilizer for my garden. But there you go. That's all there is to it. A simple, quick, sharp hunting point for small game. And it looks wide enough to me, 3/4 of an inch, but it might not be. If it's 3/4 of an inch from there to there, let me do my finger. Yeah, it's wide enough. It's about 7/8. Glue that on, shoot away. All right, that's the video for today.